Okay, well, hello everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm head of researcher experience here at CABI in Wallingford in the UK. And today I'm going to talk about Protocol Archive, CABI's new open access repository and discovery platform for evidence synthesis protocols across the applied life sciences. So we know that libraries are increasingly asked to support all kinds of evidence synthesis types across a wide range of disciplines. And Protocol Archive is intended to support that work by making protocols more visible, reusable, and discoverable. So I'm going to talk about what Protocol Archive is, why CABI developed it, how it functions, and why it's different from other protocol repositories, and finally, where we are today in terms of content usage and development. So for anyone less familiar with CABI, we are an international not-for-profit organization working across agriculture, the environment, public health, and related applied life sciences. We're owned by 48 member countries who guide and influence our areas of work and who have an equal role in our governance, policies, and strategic direction. We operate across 25 locations worldwide, and we have roughly 450 staff consisting of scientists, publishers, and IT and various kinds of support functions. Our work addresses issues of global concern like food and nutrition security, climate change and biodiversity, economic development, gender and youth through research, and international development cooperation with various donors. We're also a major publisher of scientific information, including databases, for example, the CAB abstracts and global health databases, as well as books, journals, various kinds of digital learning resources, and more recently, some interesting tools for evidence synthesis. And so Protocol Archive sits within that broader ecosystem. So I want to mention briefly also our wider set of resources developed to support evidence synthesis more recently. And these are all free to access. And these were developed under the umbrella of the Juno project, which was a collaborative donor-funded project to develop evidence synthesis tools and services in agriculture, food security, and environment. And it ran in 2024 and 2025. So it was donor-funded. And unfortunately, due to the current international climate, the donor funding for Juno dried up at the end of last year. And so all of these evidence synthesis activities, including Protocol Archive, are now supported solely by CABI, who is dedicated to continuing this. But of course, we hope that the donor funding situation might improve for the better at some point in the future. So these tools include the Evidence Knowledge Bank, which is a central showcase for many of our evidence synthesis outputs. The Evidence Skills Framework, which is an interactive career development tool primarily designed for the agri-food sector, which outlines the core competencies, the knowledge and skills required for evidence synthesis. The Primer on Evidence Synthesis, which is very much an introductory level self-paced course aimed at the agricultural sector, and it explores what evidence synthesis is and why it matters for decision-making. Then we also have the Evidence Synthesis Directory, which is a living collection of resources and recommended tools for evidence synthesis. Search Archive, of course, which many of you know, which is an open platform for sharing search strategies, and now Protocol Archive. Okay, so why are we doing all this work in the area of evidence synthesis? Well, like Sandra's slide, which I thought was interesting that she had a very similar slide to this slide. On the left here, you can see the the growth of evidence synthesis in the CABI database. And as you can see, the volume has grown dramatically over the last two decades. So we wanted to understand and pay heed to this trend, and we engaged in a series of surveys and interviews, roughly involving more than 3,000 librarians and researchers between 2019 and 2024. And we had fairly good return rate to our surveys of about 8 to 10%, but we also spoke to many people in person, so a lot of feedback. So across this feedback, several issues came up repeatedly, which is that search strategies and protocols are very valuable, but they're often hard to locate and inconsistent in quality and reporting. So Search Archive, our free repository for searches, was the first resource which emerged clearly from this feedback, and it was launched in 2021. Then we did some more investigations about protocols, and we found that they are very hard to find, and again, inconsistent in quality, as I said earlier. On more, sorry, I've just lost my track here. On more investigation, we found that there are a number of commercial paid-for repositories, particularly for experimental studies, but we found that these don't always have a very good search facility, and it's really hard, and it was very difficult to locate evidence synthesis protocols as opposed to those for experiments. And this was especially true for disciplines outside human health and medicine. So we asked stakeholders 3 practical questions when we surveyed them. Should CABI offer a repository for evidence synthesis protocols, especially outside of like traditional medicine? And the answer was very emphatically yes, particularly for agriculture and related areas, including veterinary sciences, which surprised us somewhat. Animal science, environment, and public health and nutrition were also mentioned. And then we also asked if we should index protocols that were deposited elsewhere. And again, yes, because this was seen as reducing the effort involved in finding protocols across multiple platforms and locations. And access, we asked, how should access work? Well, of course, stakeholders strongly supported free access, both for transparency, but also to support researchers and institutions with fewer resources. So these responses shaped the model that we adopted. So Protocol Archive was launched in beta in January last year, and with a full launch later last July. So it's an open access, fully searchable repository and database for evidence synthesis protocols across the applied life sciences covered by CABI's footprint, focused around agriculture, food security, nutrition, animal and veterinary sciences, One Health, climate adaptation, and public health, but importantly, not clinical medicine. Other folks cover this. So it's hosted within the CABI Digital Library. So it sits alongside CABI's wider research content, including our databases and our primary content that we publish, and of course, the other evidence synthesis resources. And so connects the protocols to our wider literature ecosystem. And it indexes and supports both new, so pre-study protocols, as well as retrospective protocols for studies that have been completed through a number of functionalities, which I'm going to describe. So at a practical level, Protocol Archive grants a persistent DOI. It provides free submission and free searching. It offers a best practice template for researchers preparing new protocols. Importantly, we really carefully moderate all submissions and content that's included. And we index all protocols using our CABI thesaurus and controlled vocabulary and taxonomic terms so that discoverability is structured and predictable. And roughly it takes about 5 to 10 days for submitted protocols to appear on the site. Okay, so deposit in Protocol Archive is free. Authors retain copyright and can choose between a Creative Commons BY and a Creative Commons O license. All deposited protocols are archived in Portico for long-term preservation. And submission also implies consent for text mining, so for wider discovery. So one thing we wanted to build into Protocol Archive, as I was saying from the beginning, is flexibility, because researchers don't all arrive at the same point in their workflow to the site. And some already have a protocol deposited elsewhere and they want to tell us about it to index it. Some have written a protocol, but they're seeking a permanent repository to deposit it. And they want a DOI for their protocol, so to make it findable, discoverable. And some are at the very beginning of their process and have not yet written a protocol, or they're thinking about writing one. So Protocol Archive supports all these three routes. And we explain this in our submission guidelines. And so for protocols that already exist elsewhere or may not have a DOI, the author can tell us about the protocol. We'll review it, and then we'll create an indexed abstract using, and we'll create an abstract and index it with our controlled vocabulary, including the evidence literature type. That's really important. We add that because that's one of the ways to find protocols in our database. And the indexed record is added to the Protocol Archive database, which you can see here on the left tab where it says Protocol Abstracts on the screenshot. And importantly, all protocol abstracts are also included in the larger CABI database. And so this is important because it actually makes it more discoverable. So not only on our platform, but all the hosts that host our databases like Ovid and Web of Science and EBSCO. So the protocols will also be discoverable there. And so to create an abstract and put it on the site takes around 5 to 10 days. Okay, so for protocols that have been written but not yet deposited and don't have a DOI, the authors will submit through our online submission form, which asks them to provide important bibliographic details, including the reporting standard they used to prepare their protocol, and similarly, the research question framework. And then they upload the protocol document for us to review. And we'll review it very carefully, as I said, against the reported framework and the standard, and just to make sure that it covers all the, the key areas. We do send comments back, and we have often, up to now, sent comments back to authors if we think revisions are required. And in most cases, the authors have taken our suggestions on board and sent a much improved protocol back, actually, for deposit. And so when accepted, the protocol gets a DOI, and we also create an abstract and index it. And we host the full protocol with its abstract and all the metadata that we've created under the Protocol Full Records tab here on the right, you can see in the screenshot. And
hi, Christina, just 1 minute remaining, please. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Additionally, the abstract is also included in the Protocol Abstracts database on the left. Okay, so for researchers that haven't yet written their protocol, we provide a template, the CABI Juno Protocol Archive Evidence Synthesis template, and it was developed by us with the Juno evidence synthesis specialists, and it draws on Prisma, Roses, Cochrane, Campbell, and other best practice guidance. It distills the key elements into a 16-headed document and guides authors on how to prepare a clear and complete protocol. And the author then submits that through our standard submission form. And again, if accepted, we give it a DOI, and it's abstracted and indexed. So I was just going to talk here about our submission form. I want to mention that both major and minor changes can be accommodated. And I show here an illustrative example of how major changes can be accommodated as a new version. So the new version is linked to the becomes the main link to full text, but we also provide a link to the original version so that the user has access to both. Okay, so to date, we've indexed over 3,300 protocols. And I'm showing here the subject spread for indexed and deposited protocols. We've had 25 submissions for deposit, and we've accepted 23. And for deposited protocols, these range mainly under economics and social sciences, environment, and agriculture, whilst for the index protocols, there's a much higher proportion in human health, and economics and social sciences come second.
Okay, Christina, so
okay.
Thank you for that. With that, I think we're going to transition to the Q&A.